Have you ever struggled to finish a tub of protein powder? Get bored easily with your protein powder flavors? Or are inexperienced with supplements and aren't sure what works for you? Scoop Supplements is your answer. Scoop Supplements is the first and only company to offer protein powder and supplements by the scoop, customized just for you. Choose from a variety of flavors. Select your supplements in any quantity you desire and have it shipped to you. Delivering across North America, Scoops lowers the commitment and increases the variety of your supplements. To learn more about Scoops, you can visit them at scoopsupplements.com or on their Instagram page at Scoop Supplements.
Welcome to Soulfully Blonde. Do you want to feed your soul and nourish your mind? Tune in for motivating messages and meaningful conversations with glow-getters, soulpreneurs, authors, mentors, and coaches as they share powerful wisdom, dynamic journeys, and inspiration that will ignite your soul to shine its brightest. Now, here is your host, Carol Starr Taylor.
Welcome, everybody. It's Carol Starr Taylor here, and I am really feeling blessed that I am on this show. Just a little bit about me for those of you that are tuning in that don't know me and don't follow me on social media, and for all of you that even are following me on social media but don't know this, it has been 42 years, believe it or not. 42 years in the making for this show. So I'm 58 years old. And when I was 16 years old, I told my parents I wanted to go into radio and television. And I was not met with the greatest response. I was been told no on any certain circumstances. So this is something that I've always wanted to do. Life, being a publisher, and going now beyond the book is something unbelievably exciting. I feel completely blessed. And I have to say that to have my first guest, Jen Buck, who, funny enough, I actually met on social media. We met on Facebook and then on Instagram. And we've been friends. We've been following each other, and we are cheerleaders for women to rise. So I am so excited. Forgive me for gushing, Jen, but I got to tell you, Jen Buck is a professional speaker, and she focuses on helping women rise and level up. And the reason I called this show Level Up Your Game is because that's what we all want, right? So, and Jen, there's nobody better. So let's bring Jen Buck on, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I am so excited for you. Inaugural show. What? This is so fab.
I know. And the fact that people can call in, and so get your questions ready, and Cameron is standing by. And if you're on soulfullyblonde.com, just click on the call button, and you'll be able to call in, and we will answer your questions. So I guess, Jen, because we're talking about leveling up your game, and you do so much for empowering women and really bringing people not only empowerment and inspiring, but you are an advocate for leadership. So I guess my first question is, because everybody defines things in a different way, what does leadership mean to you?
For me, leadership is being on the right side of right, knowing that you're making decisions from a place of integrity, and you're helping people get to the next level. Certainly leadership is about getting the, corporate to-do list taken care of effectively. Yes. But I really see it as something that is about the people. Anybody can do a job, but when you're a true leader and you're coming from a place of integrity, your sole mission is to help other people be better and step into their, their greatest abilities and talents and be able to actually become better because of the training, support, and guidance that you've given them. So for me, leadership is 100% about the people all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, integrity is everything. So it's like that for me is, I've had to make certain calls, throughout my career, whether it be in the corporate world or in being a solopreneur. And I would say that if you don't have integrity, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
So, but why is it so important to you personally about women in leadership? Why are you so passionate about it?
I think it's probably so much further back than I even know. But what I can tell you is that I was raised in a family with 7 boys. And these are not all my brothers. These are cousins, but the 3 sisters, the moms, they raised us in the same community. We're all within 3 years of each other. There are just a lot of kids. So the 8 of us growing up, we were constantly together. We were definitely, a group of puppies, that did every sport together, that did all these things. And so being the only girl and being at the bottom of the heap, I really think that's probably where it started. And I had a grandmother who was so far ahead of her time that when she was raising me and her girls, she was always about empowerment. She was always, her phrase that she used to say to her 3 daughters was chin up, shoulders back, march. That was her phrase. And you're talking about, the 40s and 50s.
Right.
And so being the only girl with all these boys and the little one, I was constantly crying and complaining, and they're not being nice to me, or I couldn't, get the ball, whatever it was. And that same phrase was what I was raised with: chin up, shoulders back, march. And it started so young, this idea that I needed to step into my power. And then when I got into the business world, I started my career in a startup, and it was a financial startup, and it was predominantly men in this startup. My particular department was all women. And that's when this power of female, collaboration and networking and support really hit me hard, that women do it better. There's something special about women leading and women working together. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the earliest identifier for me.
So when, in that collaborative, like in that all female environment, that department that you were in, did you find that it was collaborative, or was it something that needed work?
It was 100% collaborative.
Wow.
I was 18 years old, and I was coming out of high school and college where there was zero collaboration among girls. We were still at that point in life, about the cattiness and not knowing what being a strong female was about. We were kids. And so for me to step into this space, my foundation was literally formed by 25 women who brought me in as the youngin', right? Because they were all in their 30s and 40s. And they showed me what true collaboration looks like with women. And I will never forget, this was the team that year after year, I was with them for this startup for the first 10 years of their inception. This team of women, they were the award winners year after year after year after year. There was magic happening there. And so I had the greatest platform to start from. And after working there for 10 years, and I did move departments at one point, and I remember being so disappointed because that magic did not exist. But I had the foundation, and I have every single day of my career since then worked to recreate the magic that I started out with in every single environment I'm in. That's why amplifying women and supporting women matters so much to me.
Right. And so what do you think in today's corporate world, or even in entrepreneurship, what do you think the main challenges are for female leaders?
Well, I think that the biggest one is that women are not still finding equity in those C-suites and positions of power, right? True power. We don't see enough women in government. We don't see enough women making decisions that have a massive impact. And so we've got really, really scary numbers when you look at how few women are in those C-suites. And so I think the belief that women can handle more, can handle it all, can hold their weight in those spaces, for some reason is still not seen as the norm. But I do believe that's changing. I believe that there is such a wave right now. And I give a lot of credit to the millennials for that, because millennials get the need for women to support one another. They get the need to speak about one another when they're in spaces where, there's influence and power. And so I think the biggest issue is there just aren't enough women in those positions of power yet, but I think it's changing.
And so for our listeners who aren't familiar so much with the corporate world or the lingo, what is C-suite?
Yes. The C-suite is where you find your CEO, right? Your chief executive officer, your CFO, your chief financial officer, COO, chief operating officer, CCO, chief communications officer. So where you think about those really powerful and influential people residing, the floor they sit on, or, the position they're at in the company, when they've got that C before their name, chief, that means they are at the very, very top of that heap when it comes to making decisions. And that's what this is about. This isn't about how we wield power. It's about how we make decisions. And that's what the C-suite is all about.
And so why do you feel that we need more women in the workplace?
Well, studies show that when you've got more women in your executive team, your company does better. I mean, there are studies, you can pull it up right now and see how much better an organization does when they have equality on their leadership team. But beyond that, when you find companies who have women at the helm, there's more empathy, there's more support, there's more flexibility, there's more collaboration, there's more equity and equality and diversity happening in hiring and paying. So you get an environment that looks more like the equality, equity in a family than the power structures that we've seen historically. And so that whole feeling and vibe that you get when everyone has a voice, everyone is supported, that's something that's inherently female, and I will say inherently emotionally intelligent. And women are naturally more emotionally intelligent because we go with feeling, we go with relationship first.
So how do you, I can just go back from my own corporate experience. And this is just kind of off the cuff when I'm just listening to you talk. What about, where a lot of people don't want to work for women because women feel that as soon as they become, that they have to, when they're leveling up to C-suite positions, they have to almost act like a man, and they have to be that tough, I'm referring to, the iron leader, like Margaret Thatcher. She has to be that right, with a heavy hand and be that biatch, that's I'm going to call it.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something so here I am, I've crossed the 50 mark now. And so I can tell you that even in my time in business, that I was taught not to cry. I was taught not to wear my hair. Here I've got hair that goes down to the middle of my waist, right? And not to be someone who is overtly feminine, and to keep my hair controlled, and to be assertive and all those things. And listen, everybody has their choice. And if that's what works for you, fabulous. But I'm going to tell you that that's very much a part of the male system of dominance that has been in the ruling position forever. But it's not what's realistic. Nobody should care what my hair looks like. Nobody should care, how much makeup I wear or how feminine I look. And so I now, in my role, I absolutely reject all of that. I don't think that women have to, at 40, cut their hair short above their shoulders. Like, I don't buy it. This is ridiculous. People get to be and do what they want. And I think that those are archaic models that thankfully women who are equally as intelligent, and by the way, more educated, women have more education, higher education than men in the US. That I know for sure. I'm not sure what the numbers are in Canada, but I know in the US, there are more degreed women. And why we only see 30% of women in those C-level executive positions is where you can start to see that old school bias that's really blocking the door, right? And so I think those are archaic models that a lot of women like me and lots of my counterparts and lots of these women I'm in admiration of, that they're breaking down.
Right. And so what do you say to, you mentioned something about being assertive. And I know this wasn't one of the things that we were going to talk about, but I just feel compelled to really ask you what, a lot of people, they confuse assertiveness with aggressiveness.
Yes.
And so how do you handle that? Because again, that is not only in the corporate world, but also, you find that in an entrepreneurship where, not everybody is heart-centered, or if you are heart-centered, it's not in many different industries, it's not looked highly upon to be heart-centered.
Yeah.
So some people turn to that aggressiveness versus assertiveness. So how do you, what would your advice be?
Yeah. So I wrote a book on this, and it was actually something that did very, very well in my time. And it's called The Art of Being Assertive. And in that publication, I talk specifically about that line between assertiveness and aggressiveness. And the responsibility and ownership is on the communicator. So when we hear people say, I can't be responsible for your feelings, I said it, and if you didn't like it, that's your fault. And that is not what assertive communication is about. Assertive communication is about making sure that you lead with empathy. That's the number one concern. You lead with empathy. So that means you lead with thoughtfulness. You lead with the heart. So I can draw my line without destroying your self-esteem, your confidence, your integrity, your reputation. And I think the key to that is keeping your head on straight, right? It's when I get overly emotional that I shoot back, that I get, my eyes and nose flare, right? And I get my back, ramrod straight. And I find myself wanting to hit back. We all know what that is, every one of us. And so I think it's important for us to be really clear that communication is our responsibility. And if somebody doesn't respond well, we've got to look at ourselves, not blame them for being poor responders, right? We have to look at ourselves. And if I'm not emotionally intelligent enough to be able to read the person in front of me and identify what the right strategy is, there's a good chance I'm not going to do it right. So if I know someone's very sensitive, I'm going to come at it differently than someone who is highly aggressive. I'm going to come at them both very differently. And one of the things I constantly talk about is the need to know many languages. And I mean emotional languages, right? I need to be trilingual. I need to be quadlingual. I need to be sure that I'm reading the person I'm speaking to and using the language that they speak. So yeah, I think it's important for us to be really clear on whose responsibility being a good communicator is.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you, and just before we go on our first break, and maybe we will kind of leave this until and kind of cut it halfway, but what would you say to our listeners for women that want to level up their game? What is it that they need to do?
Well, they have to get in the game, and they have to actually start meeting the players, and they have to understand the strategy in that particular industry, whatever it is. I work with women all the time who want to be professional speakers. I've been doing this now for 24 years. And if you add the 10 years before that at the startup I mentioned, I've been speaking in front of audiences for 34 years and teaching, inspiring, developing at big events. And when women come to me and say, I want to be a speaker, I want to get involved, I ask them, have you spoken in front of audiences? And the first question or the first answer to that question is always, no, I'm nervous. Well, we're all nervous. You got to get in the game. You have a message, you have a story, you know that your purpose is to share it with others and make a difference. Get in the game, get on stage. I don't care if it's in front of your synagogue, your church, your community center, your YMCA, get on the stage. And in order to level up your game, you got to be in the game. You can't just be sitting on the sidelines doing your armchair quarterbacking. You got to get in the game, and you got to get yourself a coach, someone who's done it, someone who has proven success and track record. You've got to get someone who's in there to help you navigate through that space and find people who are doing it. Start building relationships with those players.
So after the break, I'd love to really talk to you about what the game really is and what the steps are for the game, because everybody talks about that on social media. Get in the game, level up your game. What does the game really mean? Because some people say, I'm not playing, but the whole thing is, do we need to play? And so I would like to really, really delve deep into this, because I think that a lot of people have limiting beliefs about that.
Sure.
So I think that is something that we can really, really talk about. And then, because I think that people feel, oh, I can't do that, right? They're all like, oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's not me. I'm shy, or I've never, I don't believe I can do it. And I find that also when people are even writing, right? So they don't have that belief in themselves. So it is about your mindset. It's about your belief. And, so let's continue this about the game after our next message.
This segment of the show is brought to you by Star House Publishing, Inc. Have you always dreamed of writing a book and sharing your story? What's holding you back? Perhaps you've not moved forward because you don't know what to do or who to trust. By choosing to partner with Star House Publishing, Inc., they can help you make your dream of publishing reality with a shelf-quality book. They are an author-focused company taking a collaborative approach with your unique book. Your voice is your gift to the world. It will inspire, inform, motivate, entertain, teach, and emotionally move people to make a difference and change the trajectory of their lives with your words. Their compilation projects offer bundled professional services, including one-on-one coaching with NLP, global distribution to over 70 online retailers. Star House Publishing is currently filling their 14th compilation book, The Soulology Chronicles Glow. Star House Publishing is your complete professional publishing solution. To contact Star House Publishing for your solo book and/or to be a part of the compilation, The Soulology Chronicles Glow, for both men and women, contact starhousepublishing.com.
And we're back with Jen Buck. For those of you that don't know or just tuning in right now, I'm with Jen Buck. She's a professional speaker and focuses on helping women rise and level up. And so just before the break, we were talking about, at this part, leveling up your game. What is that game? Jen, what's the game?
I think it's whatever you're choosing to do in your life. I don't subscribe to the hustle culture. I don't subscribe that, everybody needs to be striving to be in the C-suite or whatever. Look, we all have our own path and journey. And my job is to help you get to wherever you think that is. But in order to get you there, you got to do it, right? And you got to be willing to do some of the work. And so I'm not someone who thinks that we all need to be out in the workforce even. So there are some people that I right this very second coach who are trying to get out of corporate America. They're trying to get out of the hustle. That's okay too, right? It's about figuring out what people want, what women want to do and have and be to feel fulfilled. And so I think for me, whatever that looks like to you, my job is to connect the dots and help you get there. That's ultimately what my job is.
So, if somebody wants to level up, okay, so let's talk about entrepreneurs, okay, because there's a lot of people. And I would say that, since the pandemic, more and more people, because of their layoffs and because of staying at home and perhaps their jobs couldn't support them working from home. They've looked to entrepreneurship, and I call it soulpreneurship because that's for heart-centered individuals. So what would you say is your advice for people that are entrepreneurs, either just getting started, how they can really level up their game?
Well, I think that entrepreneurship requires us to be very, very hardworking, right? There's a discipline to showing up every day without having that cheering section that's there at the office and questioning how you're doing and all those things. So there is absolutely a need for us to be willing to work really hard. And I often tell those that I work with that, the hard work happens now and it does get easier, but the hard work really never totally goes away. It would be great if what I created became sort of self-sustaining and I never had to really do anything and I could just let this machine make money, but it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
No. And and if I learned anything from the pandemic is that I have to be really, really good with being uncomfortable, because during the pandemic, I lost every single gig I had for 2 years. During a 2-month period, literally I had 100 gigs go away. Right. And it's something that you have to constantly be willing to pivot with. And I know everybody hates the word pivot now, right? Because we're so sick of it after the pandemic. But honestly, you got to get comfortable tap dancing and reinventing and trying new things and stepping into some of these uncharted waters. I am using so many analogies, I realize, but the point is you got to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to do new things. You got to be willing to expand yourself constantly.
Right. Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, after 42 years, here's my first show. Right. And so, we have to start somewhere, and why not now? Like, I mean, my whole thing is, right. If not now, when? And so I think that we have to constantly challenge our own selves and push through our limiting beliefs that we can't do something. And we really need to focus on our dreams, our goals, our plans. And often it is uncomfortable to push that envelope. And just a reminder, for our listeners, you can call into the show, and Cameron is standing by, so he will be able to take your questions, and then we will be able to listen to them. So you can call in by pressing call into the show on soulfullyblonde.com. And so back to you, Jen. So the thing is that, I think that when we talk about entrepreneurship and, again, pivoting and those sorts of things, what about people that don't invest in their businesses? That's a very, very big thing, because with every change, there's an investment. No, not just your time and grit.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And I can tell you, as someone who is a teacher, right? I am a speaker. I am constantly encouraging people to invest in themselves and to put the money into growth, because it's always the growth that sets you on the new path, or that that lifts you from where you're at. It's always the growth. And so, yeah, you're right. It is investing in a coach. It's investing in the equipment and tools that you need. It's investing even in the balance that's necessary in your life, right? So whatever that is, it's all an investment. And one of the things I did during the pandemic is I invested my time and my money into learning, because, here I was a speaker. I make all my money from stage, right? So when somebody hires me to go do an event with 30,000 people, it's that stage and that audience that brings me the next event. So not only did I lose the events, like I lost all my prospects. And so I realized I had been letting other people run my business, if you will. I'd been sort of coasting, knowing that at the next event, I'll probably get 20 more leads and that'll take me through the rest of the year, like constantly sort of assuming that the old way was always going to be there. And this pandemic taught me that I needed to find new ways to reinvent, find new ways to do things. And I have never worked harder in my entire life, in my entire career, than I did in those 2 years, because it was constantly investing in new ideas, new equipment, new training, time. I mean, I was working 15, 18 hours a day during the pandemic because I had to learn to do it differently and learn to do it myself. Right. And that's a hard choice in the brain, especially when you're doing it from home. You're thinking, I don't have to be doing this, but I did have to, because it was all planting seeds,
Right. And so the thing is that, often I call it the power of the pause. I think that, the whole pandemic, from a soul point of view, was the power of the pause. So a lot of people had the time to reevaluate their lives, reevaluate what they wanted, what they wanted in their life, and for those that, are in the corporate world as well, it's like, okay, where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And how do I get there? Because, everything just shifted, everything. So from everything being, in person, now we're on Zoom, or, networking events, were like zero. And then we had to do them all online. So I think that it really did. And the meetings were like, I think that people were tired. They had like Zoom fatigue.
Yeah, positively. I recently was on a television show and I called this time during COVID, those 2 years, I called it the Great Reflection, instead of like the Great Recession, the Great Reflection.
Right.
And so I'm tracking with you totally. I feel like it was the reset that a lot of us needed. And I'm glad to see that our freeways, I live in Arizona. So I'm glad to see that our freeways, which is basically a mini LA here, we're in America, we're the 5th largest city in the nation. So we're very populated and our traffic is nuts and everything that you all deal with in your major cities. And I'm happy to see that our freeways have not gotten back to pre-pandemic levels during rush hour. And that to me tells me that some of the Great Reflection, the Great Reset has stuck, right? That we're still realizing that it's important that people have balance, that people have, some semblance of control, because I do believe, even though we're working from home, we do have more control when we're here. We do have a better amount of balance, and so I think that was important too. And listen, my heart goes out to all of the people who lost loved ones. I lost a lot of loved ones during COVID, a lot. And so I'm not happy that this has happened and that we're here, but I think this weird sort of side benefit, if you will, is that there's been a great reflection and all of us are starting to look at life a little differently. We're seeing that with the women who've left the workforce. We're seeing that with people who are going to companies who actually value them more. We're seeing that in entrepreneurship, more people opening up businesses. So something happened that is allowing us to benefit from that pause.
Absolutely. And so the thing is that, for those people that are new to entrepreneurship or those people that have been affected, with that great reset, with the pause, with the spend, financially, with spending and things like that. So sometimes people don't, I'm kind of looking at new entrepreneurs. I see a lot of people that are new entrepreneurs that have, sometimes people call them, the COVID entrepreneurs, that all of a sudden they emerged and they are coaches but they really don't have a direction. And often they have especially people, do you find, for somebody who works with a lot of major corporations, which you do,
Yeah.
Do you find that people that have stepped into entrepreneurship have like a shock, that they're like shocked at what entrepreneurship really is?
Well, so let me step back a little bit and say, even though, yes, we saw this wave of coaches come out during the pandemic, and this was something that was a big growth spurt. We're also seeing, because of things like the audio apps that are out there, that a lot of people now think they're speakers because they're speaking on things like Clubhouse and whatnot. I'm all for it. If you see yourself as a speaker, if you see yourself as a coach, do it. Get in the game and do it. Make the money, change the lives, find the fulfillment, and I'm all for it. But do I think that in general, people who enter into entrepreneurship are shocked? Yes. And I think that's what we see in numbers, because, we can actually track the amount of people who start a business and when that business has basically shuttered, right? When it's no longer making money, it's no longer effective. And so, yes, I think there is something to this. Entrepreneurship is a big buzzword, but it also comes with big responsibility. And it is surprising how much time you put in. I've never worked longer hours in my life than when I work for myself. I've never put so much pressure or had so much pressure on me to complete something than when I'm working for myself, right? And so it's not like you're escaping the corporate world to go into the skating rink of entrepreneurship. It's certainly difficult, and it certainly comes with high responsibility, but it also comes with limitless fulfillment, limitless earnings, limitless people you can impact. And so, like anything else, it's glorious, but you got to put the work in.
Right. And so I guess there's a factor where, some people don't have the confidence or don't even realize that they're leaders. So they have a calling that, okay, well, I want to do this. I want to get ahead in my company, or I want to start a business. I want to have my side hustle, but they don't have the confidence or even believe, or they know that they have leadership qualities. Do you have any, like, what I call golden nuggets to share on how to bring out your own leadership skills?
I think we all have it. I'm really a big believer that on some level, we're all here to plant a flag, whatever that flag is. I sound like Eddie Izzard, the comedian, plant your flag. But I really do believe that we're all here to plant a flag. And what that looks like from person to person is going to be different, right? And so maybe that flag is within your community. Maybe that flag is within your family. Maybe it's within your child's school, but it also may be on a global stage. Maybe it's at the UN. Maybe it's within your community, or your county, whatever that looks like. So I think that we need to figure out what lights our fire. And if you have something that matters to you, be it politics, a certain cause, maybe it's a certain, a certain organization that you donate to, get involved. We need more people to be active, and being active means that we're participating and we're contributing, right? And sometimes leadership doesn't come with a title. Sometimes it just comes with a heck of a lot of passion and the will to contribute and make something better. And another thing that I tend to tell women who say to me, I'm afraid, I'm this, I'm that, borrow someone else's courage, borrow their bravery. We all have a reservoir of bravery, but there is a really strong sanitary seal on that bravery well. And that strong sanitary seal, if you think about that on your vitamin bottles, right? There's that strong sanitary seal. It's there to warn you, this is going to be scary. This is going to be a big deal. Are you sure you want to do this? But the fact is, the seal comes off, and then you've got this endless well of bravery. So get through the seal. And if you have to borrow someone else's bravery to push through, do that. But get in the game. And I know that I keep saying get in the game, and I don't mean any in terms of hustle. I just mean get involved in what lights your soul on fire.
Yeah. And I think that is, that's really important. I think it's passion and purpose. So after the break, we'll talk a little bit more about passion, soul, purpose. And I would love to hear any callers if they want to call in and ask Jen anything. And we're ready for our next break.
Have you ever struggled to finish a tub of protein powder? Get bored easily with your protein powder flavors? Or are inexperienced with supplements and aren't sure what works for you? Scoop Supplements is your answer. Scoop Supplements is the first and only company to offer protein powder and supplements by the scoop, customized just for you. Choose from a variety of flavors. Select your supplements in any quantity you desire and have it shipped to you. Delivering across North America, Scoops lowers the commitment and increases the variety of your supplements. To learn more about Scoops, you can visit them at scoopsupplements.com or on their Instagram page at Scoop Supplements.
This segment of the show is brought to you by Star House Publishing, Inc. Have you always dreamed of writing a book and sharing your story? What's holding you back? Perhaps you've not moved forward because you don't know what to do or who to trust. By choosing to partner with Star House Publishing, Inc., they can help you make your dream of publishing reality with a shelf-quality book. They are an author-focused company taking a collaborative approach with your unique book. Your voice is your gift to the world. It will inspire, inform, motivate, entertain, teach, and emotionally move people to make a difference and change the trajectory of their lives with your words. Their compilation projects offer bundled professional services, including one-on-one coaching with NLP, global distribution to over 70 online retailers. Star House Publishing is currently filling their 14th compilation book, The Soulology Chronicles Glow. Star House Publishing is your complete professional publishing solution. To contact Star House Publishing for your solo book and or to be a part of the compilation, The Soulology Chronicles Glow, for both men and women, contact starhousepublishing.com.
And we're back from the break. And if you want to call, and I understand that on soulfullyblonde.com right now, we have some technical difficulties. So for those listeners that would love to call in and ask myself and Jen, especially Jen, because I'll be here every single week, but Jen is here today. So the number is 1-844-390-8255 to call into the show. That's 1-844-390-8255. And Cameron's standing by, and he'll be able to, he'll put you in a queue, and we will get ready to hear those questions. Again, 1-844-390-8255. So Jen, one of the things that we were talking about just before the break was that, people kind of, they need to get started. They wanted to talk about their passion and their purpose. What is your passion and purpose, you think?
My passion and purpose is to create equity and inclusion. Simple, period, end of story. And while I absolutely do work in the space of creating racial equity and inclusion, and I fight to make sure that I'm a part of the conversation with gender equity and inclusion. It's important for me to see women get into places where decisions are being made, these positions of power, so that they can be a part of the conversation. That matters to me. Women have been managing our communities and our families forever. And we need more women in these places where decisions are being made. And so that's really what drives me, is seeing my sisters rise.
And so how do people, they may be in entry level positions, millennials or women coming back into the workforce, or even somebody that, they think that in a way that they keep changing jobs to that's the way to level up. So what's your thought on how does somebody level up? How do women make their voices heard in the corporate world?
So one of the themes that I say constantly is do more. Do more than the people around you. Ask more questions. Bring more interesting thoughts to the game. Be there longer than anyone else. Get more engaged in the organization's extracurricular activities. Ask more questions. Be more involved. Do more. And I don't mean to the point of exhaustion, and I don't mean to the point of imbalance, but do more than anybody else. Be more interested so that you get more attention. When I do more, I get more, right? And it is strategy. It's not exhaustion and effort that is, supposed to burn you out. It's about being strategically placed in a position so that when you do more, you are acknowledged for being more. It's more.
Right. Well, we have a caller.
Cool.
We're going to welcome Jenny from San Antonio. Welcome, Jenny, to the show.
Thank you. Hey, I had a question for you ladies, and it came to my mind while Jen was speaking earlier about speaking other people's languages, which I thought was a brilliant point. I'm a nurse, and so when I am precepting younger nurses, I try to make sure that I teach them. One of the most intimidating things when you're a young nurse is going to a doctor and either disagreeing or asking for clarity or just collaborating with them on patient care, because they're viewed as the position of authority. And so I teach my young nurses to be able to say, especially if a doctor is not receptive to communication, I teach them, I always have two phrases that I teach them specifically. One is, you're more than welcome to teach me what it is you want me to learn. You're not welcome to speak to me as if I'm incapable of learning, when there's a conflict. And the other one, I always teach them to say when they need a doctor's attention or time or clarity, can I have your brain? Which sets the tone. I need your space. I need your input. I need your attention. And then I wait for them to say, yes, okay, here's my brain. What would you ladies add, Jen? What would you add for those situations, and especially women, because that's kind of what we were focused on earlier, women that are entrepreneurs and in new positions of having to communicate to levels of perceived authority that they never have before. What are some phrases that you would teach women to use, either in conflict resolution or just in opening those lines of communication? What are some things? Because I think that's a valuable tool for people, for women. What are some phrases you would teach?
I, first of all, love what you just said about, well, both of them. You are free to teach me, but not free to talk to me like I'm incapable of learning. I mean, that is so brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. So thank you for that. I also love that, can I pick your brain, or I need your brain. I love that because it speaks to ego. And it also speaks to a driving need that we all have to help one another. So if I know that you're wanting my brain, right, it makes me feel good. And then it also taps into the need to help others. So that is just brilliant. So Jenny, let me say that to you. I am a big fan of having interrupters when there is disrespectful communication or tone happening. And so I often will teach women in such a small way to make sure that they're stopping the flow of conversation the moment it starts to become hostile or disrespectful or diminishing. And so whether that is a simple hold up or 1 second, stopping, interrupting the flow of that conversation is huge, because that in that moment is going to give me a chance. I don't have to say any more than that. Hold up. That's going to get the other person stammering and stuttering a little bit. And if I can even add a gesture to it, it allows me to put, again, here we go with my flag. I put a flag up between us that says, you're being penalized right now. This is a penalty moment, just like in sports, right? And so hold up. And when the person finally stops, say, I'm not sure I understood what that tone was implying. Or I'm not sure I understood what you meant by using the word can't or disrespectful or, whatever the word might have been that was offensive, but hold up or just a second. Interrupters are huge because they stop the flow. They allow the person to sputter out. And then in my mind, I have a second to take a deep breath and to enter into that space of giving that penalty in the moment. And I have for years used hold up. And it allows me to say to someone, and I use this a lot, I'm not sure I understood your tone. I'm not sure I understood what you meant by that. I've also said to people, can you repeat that to me? So that they are forced to say exactly what they just said slowly and intentionally out loud. And I'm going to tell you that more often than not, people will hear themselves the second time and apologize before I have to ask for an apology. So that interrupter for me is really, really important. So I hope that helps.
Oh, no, absolutely. I love that. I love even just calling out specifically, I'm not sure I understood your tone, because that's where we lose. That's where the breakdown in communication is.
Yep.
Most of the time is not understanding intention. So that's brilliant. Yes, I really appreciate that. That's fantastic.
Thanks so much, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. So that was great. That was great because, often it is about, because it is intimidating for many people to do that and to feel, and to feel that. So where they feel that they are not in a position of power. Right. And so, but one of the things that I know you do, and I really wanted to just, before you go, because I mean, it's been an hour that's kind of flown by. And I really wanted to, what are some of the tips that you can tell somebody as far as starting to public speak?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, get out and start speaking. So get ready to do it for free. Get ready to receive feedback. Get ready to hustle to find those places where you can contribute and be that messenger. And whether, again, that's a church, a boys and girls club, to your local school, get out and speak. And you also really, really need to start building a community with people who are doing it already. And that means often finding a coach. I will tell you, after 24 years, I did not learn all of this by myself. I guarantee you that. And so for me, having mentors and people who've already walked the path is key to all of this.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So if you could give one piece of advice or mantra that you have for our listeners to take away with them today, what would that be?
Gosh, that's a good question. Every single day I wake up and I say about 100 times, and this is no joke, no exaggeration. I say, I'm alert, I'm alive, and I feel great. I'm alert, I'm alive, and I feel great. I'm alert, I'm alive, and I feel great. And I do that because I know that what I put in my mind is what I get in the performance of my body. So I'm alert, I'm alive, and I feel great.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I got to write that down.
Goodie.
You got to post that on Instagram. Okay.
I will.
because that I think is fantastic. It's something that, I'm a big believer in affirmations. So I write affirmations and I'm constantly posting them, and you are too. And, you're just so brilliant at it. So it's amazing. So, that I'm alert. What is it? I'm alert.
Yep. I'm alert. I'm alive, and I feel great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so tell me what's coming up for you. Where can our listeners find you? Where's Jen next?
Yeah. Gosh, I've got a lot going on. I'm a chief communications officer for a foundation. And so I am constantly working within my community to lead well and make a difference. And so along with that, of course, the speaking, and you can all find me at Jen Buck Speaks everywhere, every platform. It's Jen Buck Speaks. Yeah, it's not difficult. And my website is jenbuckspeaks.com. So reach out. I am on every platform, and it's really me behind the keyboard. So
that's
come
awesome.
find me.
And you have a podcast too.
I do. It's called the Her Story Collaborative. And I talk to high performing women who are killing it in the world.
That's awesome. And you've got a room in Clubhouse. I mean, you literally are everywhere.
I am. I'm a hardworking woman.
I know you are. And you are such an inspiration and such an empowerment leader. And you really do. I mean, your energy on social media comes through right from the screen, right from my phone. I wanted to thank you so much for joining us today and enlightening our listeners. I would love, we haven't even touched on half the stuff that we were going to talk about today. So I would love to have you back at some point if you'd love to come in. And really, I think that the listeners have gotten a lot out of what you have to offer. So if anybody wants to reach Jen, it's jenbuckspeaks.com. And I want to thank you, the listener, for your time. And I hope that you've enjoyed today's show. This is a weekly show, so stay tuned for next episode. Next week, we are always live. And then we're cut to podcast to all your favorite podcast choices. And just go to soulfullyblonde.com. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.